The family of missing Australian vet Lukas Orda have made a public plea to the Morrison government to resume and urge the resumption of a search for survivors of a live export ship that capsized off the coast of Japan. A Queensland man is one of 2 Australians missing. There are 40 people overall missing after the live export vessel Gulf Livestock 1 sank during a powerful typhoon. Japanese authorities scaled back their search and rescue operation last week. The families of Lukas Orda and Mainprize have been lobbying the federal government to launch an official search. They argue there is some evidence of more survivors.
We understand that politicians and the Office of Foreign Affairs and Trade are working on potential solutions to recommence the search. Regardless, we cannot comprehend how the decision was made to stop the search.
Member for Kennedy Bob Catter says the Australian government's response has fallen well short of expectations. He joins me now from Charters Towers in Queensland. Mr Catter, thanks for your time. What do you want to see happen now?
In the case of a Malaysian airline going down, which really didn't concern Australia, we spent $90 million and the search went on for over 2 months. Now, we know 2 Australians are in the water. Whether they're alive or dead, we don't know. Obviously, I'm very experienced in this area. I've had the access part of the Barrier Reef. I've had responsibility for it for I think 35 years. I know of numerous cases, but I've never, ever heard of a search being called off effectively after 9 days. The Japanese called the search off. Well, that's fair enough because it's arguably beyond their territorial waters, but the Australians should have taken up the cudgel. And quite frankly, all I've done is get procrastination, obfuscation, and fairly patronising non-action. I don't think public servants understand that there is a writ called mandamus where you can actually legally force a public servant to do the job he's paid to do. Now, these people are being paid $1 trillion a year to do this work, and we have been ringing them now since Thursday of last week, and they sitting at home enjoying themselves instead of going out. Now, these 2 boys are in the water. They're hoping and they're praying that Australia will come out and rescue them. And the government of Australia is not going to do that. That's quite clear at this stage. Now, when I started making phone calls, it was 70% chance that those boys would survive if search party found them. That has shrunk now in the 5 days since I started my campaigning to 60%. And by Wednesday of this week, that'll shrink to 50%. But there's still a 50% chance. I mean, you've got all these assets sitting at airports in Australia. I mean, why do you pay these people if they don't go out and search for people who are at sea? They are in life jackets, which means their heads above water. There's been continuous rain for most of the last fortnight. They should be all right for water, and people can last up to 4 weeks without food. So,
and when you quote that 50% chance of survival, where's that advice from? Can you explain that to me?
I've spoken to 3 doctors concerning this. I can get you their names if they give me permission. I didn't ask them for permission. I've spoken to 3 doctors. But in any event, I think most people are aware of the lady in Utah Mountains in America. Survived for 28 days with no water for the first 3 or 4 weeks and then no food for nearly 4 weeks. We know the story of Captain Bligh, who went for 3 or 4 weeks. We don't know whether they've got to the rafts, but the rafts had survival rations on them. The boy that was rescued, he was on one of those rafts with the survival ration. But the rafts haven't been found, so where are the rafts? But really, there's been no effort made, and I'm deeply, deeply let it be upon their conscience the death of these two boys, and that's not an overstatement.
Do the family feel abandoned? Is that the message to you?
Well, the family is abandoned. I mean, we've got no satisfaction whatsoever out of any level of government. And in any event, it's the public service. I hate to say this, but I think the public servants make their own decisions. I don't think the government has much say in it. The day taking the public money, which the public gives them, to look after us if we get lost at sea, and they will not go searching for you if you are lost at sea. And talk about it being Japan's responsibility. Well, that's simply not correct. If you look at the currents, you would realise that this is not, in all probability, in Japanese waters at all. And also, it's not the responsibility of Japanese to look after Australian nationals. We did it because why did we do it? Malaysia Airlines, and yet we can't do it for these two boys. Would someone like to explain that to me? Well, we spent $90 million in that case. There's another case off Whit Sundays, which I was very heavily involved with. They called the search off after a week, and it was called back on within 3 days because of the furor and the uproar. And I think one or two were found alive nearly 3 weeks later.
Marise Payne, the Foreign Minister, released a statement at the weekend where she said that the Japan Coast Guard had advised the Australian Embassy in Tokyo that a wide area of surveillance by air and sea will continue. That's not good enough.
They have no assets devoted to the search at all. Their normal Coast Guard duties will be carried out in their normal manner, and they will keep their eye out for anything bobbing around in the sea. But there's no actual search being undertaken at all. And really, it's not in the area of the Coast Guard's purview where those boys are, in all probability, with the currents flowing the way that they have been flowing. And the search was carried out in the middle of 2 typhoons. So, I mean, it wouldn't have been a very effective search. I just cannot believe that the government's not moving on this. And it's regrettable to say that public servants are obviously ruling the roost here. But the ministers have got to take the blame, ultimately.
Bob Catter, live from Charters Towers.